You're listening to the #1 radio show in the morning with Jukal Daya. Keep it locked. Michael Malikai said that.
You're listening to 101.7 Love FM.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM. Welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, concerns about bun eating contests. And in the second watch, examining the recent UN vote on the transatlantic African slave trade. For our social media question, we ask, should schools ban bun eating contests due to safety concerns, or is this an overreaction? Please share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
All right. So today's I quote says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit." This one is from Aristotle.
Yeah. Good morning, Joka.
Good morning.
Yeah, we the first watch we'll be dealing with bun eating contest.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever entered a bun eating contest?
I have many moons ago.
Yeah,
many years ago. Yeah.
And I'm afraid to ask you how did you place in that contest?
I was hungry, so I just had the bun. So I just had it.
Don't talk about placement first, second, third.
We did want something to eat.
Yeah. I suspect that many people enter that contest for that same reason.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The first watch after this break.
Everyone deserves access to quality insurance. So Sagicor Life has developed a suite of insurance products offering life, critical illness, and health insurance coverage to specific groups at affordable rates.
Affordable coverage for church members.
Life and health insurance for farmers and fisher folks.
Small business operators and contractors. We have access to insurance too.
Coverage for all. Care for you. Get the coverage you need to protect what matters. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with an advisor today.
It's Jamaica's biggest and best gospel music competition. Win over $1 million in cash and prizes. Online entries only at jcdc.awardsplatform.com. Enter now and be Jamaica's next gospel star. New closing deadline April 17. Enter now.
Gee, you know say Mike no come?
Hold on.
No, sir. That sound like consumption.
What that?
Tuberculosis, aka TB.
Now all time something like that. After nobody now get that again.
So you think TB still about?
If you have a cough for more than 2 weeks with fever, night sweats, and weight loss, go to your doctor or health center and get tested now. Let's be vigilant and stop the spread of TB infections. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
From everyday moments to the biggest stage in football, use your Visa for your daily purchases and you could win a trip to the FIFA World Cup 2026. Whoever uses their Visa the most wins. Pay with Visa.
Domestic violence encompasses all forms of abuse that occur within the home. On the next episode of Campus Connection, we shine the spotlight on domestic violence intervention part 2. Join us as Corporal Chrisania Cameron from the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, Melissa Dell, medical student at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, and Aaron Brown, student, activist, public speaker, and mixologist, explore how victim safety, behavioral, emotional, and mental health can have a profound positive impact on our youth dealing with issues of domestic violence. Plus, don't miss our special interview segment with Alicia Hurdit, president of the UWI Mona Mathematics Club. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by the Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security and Peace, Jamaica's partner in advancing progress and building peace. Tune in on Tuesday, March 31 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, a familiar Easter tradition in many Jamaican schools is now under scrutiny. Indeed, according to a recent Gleaner report, a man who engaged in a bun-eating contest died after choking. And subsequently, medical professionals are raising concerns about the risks associated with bun-eating contests, prompting some schools to reconsider whether these activities should continue. And this has sparked a broader conversation about student safety, supervision, and the responsibility of schools when organizing such events. Well, joining us to discuss these concerns are Professor Marvin Reed, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, and Mr. Linton Weir, President of the Jamaica Association of Principals and Vice Principals. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Begin with you, Professor Reed. For the record, what are the risks associated with bun-eating contests and why?
Okay, so for the record, all sporting activity have some risk associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no risk-free activity per se. It really depends on the underlying health status of the person. Having said that, for bun-eating contests, the main risk, as evidenced in the report you just read, is really that of choking. So when one eats, in theory, one is supposed to cut the food in smaller portions. That's the whole act of chewing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other important component is the lubrication to allow you to swallow and the food to go down in what we call the esophagus or the food tube. So when it is that you're eating and eating fast and not chewing properly, the risk is that there's a little door that prevents food from going into your trachea, which is the air pipe.
Mm-hmm.
That door might be open, and so you end up with food particles lodging in that door and blocking it. So the main risk is that of choking, because especially in the case of a bun-eating contest, most people will cut and swallow. You're eating very fast, you're biting large chunks, and so that poses a significant risk for the choking event. So in choking, there's no air that is entering your lung, and therefore eventually what we'll do is that you starve tissues in the body of oxygen, and the tissues can't live without oxygen, so that you will die. So those are the considerations.
Yes, and is there a time frame involved? I mean, if usually between this choking taking place and it reaching an emergency crisis even further?
Sure, the time frame is immediate. Actually,
Mm.
the tissue that is most susceptible will be that of your brain, and so after about 4 minutes, you will end up having significant brain damage.
4
And for
minutes.
each minute thereafter, the risk of the damage becomes even more catastrophic. So time is of the essence. So
Difference.
from immediate recognition that somebody might be choking, one really should be implementing first aid maneuvers.
Yes. Linton, where anecdotally, how common are such contests in schools and why?
I don't think I will be able to talk about how common it is.
Mm.
I have seen it not necessarily in school, but I've seen it before. And I think it has taken place in schools, but I will not be able to provide you with information as it relates to the commonality of it, how common it is. But it's very, very unfortunate what took place recently as it relates to this gentleman. And I think the mere fact that it happened and that information has been communicated, to all individuals, we have seen it in the media. I think it is very, very important that whatever practice was before, that we desist from participating in such activity.
Mm-hmm.
As was communicated just now, all sporting activity come with some amount of risk. And is similar with that of bun eating contest. And one other thing about bun eating contest too, 9 out of 10 times when individuals participate in it, they are not given any form of beverage liquid until they have completed the act itself of participating in eating the bun.
Mm.
And with a situation like that, you're talking about the bun extremely dry. You're talking about the biscuit, because they do biscuits as well. Very, very dry. So you don't have enough saliva. And then when you talk about, being excited and you're trying to get it going as quickly as possible, that is going to result in choking. So while it is unfortunate, it's a useful lesson, and it has to be a useful lesson to all of us who serve as administrators within our institution.
Yes, and of course, you're principal of Old Harbor High School. They don't have that done there.
We have never had that.
Mm.
We have had many contexts, but we have never had bun eating, event.
Any particular reason?
It has never come to me. It was never asked of me to sign off on something like that. But I'm very, very happy that it has never come to me for me to sign off on something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that I don't like. I mean, I've seen individuals participate in these events, bun eating contests, and I've seen individuals vomit.
Mm.
I've seen individuals who eat in their vomit as well. So it is never something that I like to see, and there's no way I would facilitate something happening in my school like this. I don't think it. I don't like it, and I don't like what I'm seeing coming out of those events as well. So while it is unfortunate, it's a useful lesson, and for those of us who serve as educators, principal teachers, this has to be a warning to us.
Yes. Professor Reed, are there other foods? Linton, we mentioned biscuits a while ago. Are there any other foods which pose similar dangers?
All foods,
All foods.
So yes, man, because the idea here is that the risk occur because you're either trying to eat too fast, you're trying to talk or laugh and have a conversation while eating. So that any food at all that is in your mouth at that particular time has the risk of blocking up the airway. But more importantly, though, as you have principle on the line, I think one of the big lessons to learn from this is that if you're going to have a sporting event like a sports day or even a big community day, apart from the logistics of the event itself, what events you're doing.
Tell you what, Professor, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We're up on a break. Want to hear more from you after the break, okay?
No problem.
Great.
Close your eyes. Feel the energy, the crowd, the moment before the goal. This is more than watching football. This is living it. Welcome to the game with Scotiabank and Visa. Use your Scotiabank Visa credit card for a chance to win a trip to the FIFA World Cup 2026. Thanks to Visa. Learn more at jm.scotiabank.com. Visa, worldwide partner of the FIFA World Cup 26. Promotion ends March 31. Conditions apply. Approved under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Visit jmvisa.scotiabank.com for full terms and conditions.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and this is the first watch. We are expressing concerns about bun eating contests, and in so doing, we have online Linton Weir, President of the Jamaica Association of Principals and Vice Principals. He's also the principal of the Old Harbor High School. And we also have Professor Marvin Reed, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica. Before the break, Professor Reed was making some comments. Go ahead, please, Professor Reed.
Part of from the logistics of the event and so on is that adequate provision of some consideration should be given for the management of emergencies at these events. So either it is that you have a nurse who is trained, or you have the availability of like the St. John's ambulance or some entity there that whose responsibility it is to provide emergency service, should that be required. That's an important consideration that needs to happen for these sports day events. At the community level as well, one of this that should also happen. But on the other hand, one of the other things that we would recommend is that as many persons as possible undergo some degree of first aid training. The more persons in the community and even in schools that have been exposed to first aid training, then the greater the possibility that the individual in this particular instance could have been saved, especially if somebody had known simple first aid techniques. So as part of the non-curriculum activities at school, one of the things principals could do is to ensure that, especially their older kids, their sixth formers or their fifth formers, get some exposure to first aid training, either organized through their clubs or through any of the associations that they may have at school. So it's general first aid literacy, in addition to the fact that once you're doing an organized sporting event, some consideration should be given for what we call simple first aid and emergency care.
Yes, well said. Linton Weir, Professor Reed just mentioned about management of emergencies, and he mentioned the importance of individuals having first aid training. As far as you're aware, how much of that is put in place with sporting events and other similar events?
Well, I can speak specifically for my school. We have had 2 or 3 training exercises that have taken place at my school, and those training has been conducted by Red Cross. At the time when we did it, it's $10,000 per person. So the first time we did it, I would have assigned for our vice principals, members of the physical education department, student council, different individuals. We tried to create a good spread. And a matter of fact, the certification, I think it lasts for 1 year. After 1 year, you'd have to be recertified. So we have done it 3 times. I think one other thing that needs to happen though, Red Cross participate, Red Cross support something like this. But I think we have to have a greater waiver as it relates to the cost itself, because at the time when we did it, it was $10,000 per participant. I think for us to have greater buy-in and greater sort of support, we will have to have individuals who's going to underwrite these sort of things. Yes, it is important that those individuals who are critical in terms of our PE teachers, assistant nurse, senior teachers, students. But when you look at our school context in terms of population, because let us say, for example, my student population is 2,500 and my staff is 140 teachers. You'd want to have individuals who could facilitate writing off the cost itself, or to waiver the cost to make it a little bit more affordable, so that we can have a wider cross-section of individuals within our school provided with this sort of service itself. But I think it is very, very important. I did the course myself. Well, I'm up right now for recertification, but I did it the very first time we introduced it. Very, very useful, lots of information. I mean, some of the things that we did, I did not know of it. So I think it is very, very important, very, very useful. But I would suggest that we have somebody or individuals will be able to underwrite it so that we can get it more affordable, because based on your population size.
Yes. How long was the course, Mr. Weir?
It's hours, it was a Saturday morning we did it. It lasts for approximately 5 to 6 hours.
I see. One day.
5 to 6. One day. Just one day. Yeah. But it's a lot of, very intensive, and it's important.
Yeah.
It's like it's a skill. Let us say, for example, the skill of driving, the skill of swimming. It's one of those skills that you would really want to have, because you never know when you're going to be utilizing it. You never know when you're going to be called to utilize it. And let us say, for example, in situation, I made mention earlier of my school in terms of 2,500 students. We only have one nurse. And we just having 2,500 students, one nurse, and a shift school. Something like this is going to be very, very important for us to have more individuals in our school community trained for events like these. That's very, very important.
Yes.
I mean, the good little doctor made mention about sporting events. For sports day, yes, we try to have a medical personnel there. It's to facilitate in terms of football competition, that a medical personnel should be there, or somebody, who drive as well. So that just in case there are emergency, you are able to rush with the individual. But a lot of time, what affects us is the cost that is associated with these different things. Because you take, for example, sports day, we have to pay individuals. We have to pay the doctor to come in. We have to pay for the ambulance service to spend the entire day with us. And it is very, very expensive. So a lot of times what affects some of us is the cost that is associated with it.
Yes. Well said. Thank you. Professor Reed, if someone is experiencing, is it called asphyxia? Due, for example, to a bun eating contest or, other events like that, what should others who want to help him or her do or not do?
All right. So essentially, asphyxia just basically means that you're not being able to get air into the system because of some obstruction, typically. So the key element really is the ideal circumstance first is that the person should be trained in the techniques that I'm really going to be describing. So the two techniques are really something that we're going to be calling Heimlich maneuver, which is the maneuver that you perform if somebody is stroking, if you identify that as a cause. And the other one is going to be CPR or resuscitation technique. Those are the two broad techniques that one would apply in a particular situation like this. So it's a little difficult to describe without you actually being seen it, Yeah. But typically, what one could do, roughly, is that if you identify someone who's stroking as an adult, you could have them bend over a bit, hit them between their shoulders firmly. Typically, the courses will tell you about 5 times. If nothing happens at that point in time, then you're going to do the Heimlich maneuver, where you stand behind the person, put your hand around them, somewhere between the chest plate and the navel, and you compress and push upwards, and hopefully that will dislodge the particle and allow it to come out. But the truth be told, in emergency scenarios, unless it is something that is part of you, you're trained to do it, most people are not going to be able to to remember just because of the panic.
Yeah.
So it's important, as I said, that as many persons as possible within community settings learn some aspects of first aid. We know cost is an issue, and typically in those scenarios, there are two ways to mitigate cost. One is a so-called train-the-trainer approaches. So for large scenarios like the school, for example, what we can do is identify key persons who will then become the trainer. So you don't have to depend upon the primary training provider to do it. The main difference is that you probably won't have the certification, but you will have the skill. The other approach, clearly, is to work with other volunteer organizations who sometimes do this as part of their remit. So, the Kiwanis, Rotaries, and these kinds of things, oftentimes they do these things as part of their remit and mission, and they will help underwrite the cost and so on for the training. But generally speaking, especially as we try and get more and more persons involved in some kinds of sporting activity, whether it be swimming or walking or running, the risk of an accident increases. And so the more persons who are first aid and CPR trained, the better the chances are the outcome.
Yeah. Well, many of these bunnyting contests, especially in recent times, they're accompanied with the drinking of water. Professor Reed, does that make much of a difference?
Well, the idea is whenever it is that it's really the food that is in the mouth at the time that is important. So we normally, and it's really lubrication of the food. So the truth be told, the best thing that one can do is to take a small amount of food in your mouth, chew it properly, and swallow. Anything else is usually not going to be very helpful.
And in an atmosphere of a competition where you want to win, that is,
I know that's
likely.
To happen.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Am I hearing you saying though that we should just ban these events?
Well, you have certain sports that are always going to be high risk,
and this is one.
And this is one of them. Boxing, for example, could be high risk. It would be considered high risk.
I think they should ban boxing, by the way, Professor. And wrestling. I think they should be banned.
So it's really the culture of the society that is going to determine whether the sport is acceptable or not. What we say is that you need to have the appropriate risk mitigation strategy appropriate for the sport. So in this particular scenario, if one is going to have fun eating contest, then one needs to ensure that there's an adequate facility available to resuscitate an individual should they choke, because the risk of choking is high.
Yeah.
All right, so that's really what I would say.
Yeah.
If you ask me personally now, what is my view on gun eating? I'm in line with principle, is that I don't think it's a sport that we should really continue with.
Yes, yes. And you have the same view, still have that view, I should say, Linton Weir.
No doubt about that. That for me will not change. We're talking about young individuals within our schools, whether it is going to be primary school, whether it is going to be high school. These are young individuals, and know that we have seen the danger, we have seen the death of an individual. I don't think we should continue with it. I think we should discontinue it, and especially when it comes down to young individuals. I am sure later on you're going to see some of our rules within our school is going to be changed in terms of parents' consent for some of these things.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, as an administrator, I will not participate in it, and I will not provide any
Thank you.
support. I don't want
got to
entertain in my school, and I would say to my fellow administrators, please
to do the same. Got to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining us. Have a safe and productive day. Listeners, viewers, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Start
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:30.
When you're enjoying life, critical illness is one of the last things on your mind. But the risk is real. Critical illness has many faces. Young and old, male and female are being affected. Be prepared with critical illness insurance from Sagicor Life. It gives you financial protection when you need it most, with a 25% payout on early diagnosis of non-invasive cancer. Protect what matters. Speak to a Sagicor Life advisor or purchase online at elife.sagicorjamaica.com.
It's a golden jubilee. MSG celebrating 50.
From foundation to rooftop high, 50 years as the cornerstone of the nation.
Brick by brick, side by side, we've been building dreams all across Jamaica. Yeah, we're building communities. We're housing generations with trust and care. We light the way, let me see home starts here. Building communities. We're housing generations with heart and hope. We lead the way, let me see. Keep your hope. Keep your hope.
Every professional reaches a moment when growth calls. A promotion, a new opportunity, a bigger vision. At Mona School of Business and Management, our globally competitive graduate programs, including the internationally accredited MBA, are designed for ambitious professionals who are ready to lead. With flexible delivery options that fit your lifestyle, advancing your career is within reach. Learn from world-class faculty. Connect with influential leaders. Transform your future. Visit discover.mspm-uwi.org and apply online for a graduate degree. MSBM, Global Knowledge, Regional Solutions.
I'm not allowed to go anywhere by myself. They're afraid I will escape.
See how my other face bruise up? They beat me just because I said I'm tired.
I'm only 13, but they said if I work harder, they will make me go back home.
Forced labor is one of the many forms of human trafficking. To report suspected cases of human trafficking, call the nearest police station, 119 or 888-PROTECT. A message from the Ministry of National Security and Peace.
Close your eyes. Feel the energy, the crowd, the moment before the goal. This is more than watching football. This is living it. Welcome to the game with Scotiabank and Visa. Use your Scotiabank Visa credit card for a chance to win a trip to the FIFA World Cup 2026 thanks to Visa. Learn more at jm.scotiabank.com. Visa, worldwide partner of the FIFA World Cup 26. Promotion ends March 31. Conditions apply. Approved under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Visit jmvisa.scotiabank.com for full terms and conditions.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at some headlines to see what Jamaicans and others are really saying and doing. First of all, my food maintains sugary drinks tax will only hurt vulnerable Jamaicans. Also, JPS urges customers to conserve to avoid high bills. Also, PNP patriots want Western Children's Hospital renamed after Portia Simpson Miller. We see here as well that 700,000 farmers set to benefit from US $50 million project promoting climate resilient agriculture. And then finally, Cuba to receive Russian oil tanker today. Those are some of the headlines, and coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question. Should schools ban bun eating contests due to safety concerns, or is this an overreaction? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-5555. 3125. We'll be right back.
With your mortgage payments at NHD.
Your home is more than just a roof over your head. It's where your memories are made, your biggest investment. That's why it's so important to stay in tune with your NHD mortgage payments. Life can get busy and other responsibilities can pop up, but falling behind with your mortgage can put your home at risk. If you're having trouble keeping up, visit your NHD branch today. We'll work with you to make a plan to stay on top of your mortgage. NHD, the key to your home.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Queen of Britney Clark!
Hi, I'm Britney. Are you culturally aware, talented, and confident? Enter Miss Jamaica Festival Queen 2026 today. Log on to jcbc.awardsplatform.com and you have until April 17 to enter. Over $1 million in cash and prizes.
Miss Jamaica Festival Queen.
Coffee in the morning, delivery at night, gas on the way. Pay everything with Visa, because whoever uses their Visa the most wins a trip to the FIFA World Cup 2026. Make every purchase count.
Tuesday, March 31, on The Rock, we dive deep into one of Scripture's most haunting relationships, Jesus Christ and Judas Iscariot. Join guests Pastor Dane Wilson and Father Can Honeygan as they explore the tension between love and betrayal, calling and choice, grace and rejection. He walked with Jesus, learned from him, ate at his table, yet turned away. What really happened? Was Judas destined for this moment, or did he choose his path? And what does his story reveal about us today? All this and more on The Rock, Tuesday, March 31 at 10 a.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Domestic violence encompasses all forms of abuse that occur within the home. On the next episode of Campus Connection, we shine the spotlight on domestic violence intervention part 2. Join us as Corporal Chrisania Cameron from the JCF's National Domestic Violence Intervention Unit, Melissa Dell, medical student at the University of the West Indies Mona campus, and Aaron Brown, student, activist, public speaker, and mixologist, explore how victim safety, behavioral, emotional, and mental health can have a profound positive impact on our youth dealing with issues of domestic violence. Plus, don't miss our special interview segment with Alicia Hurdit, president of the UWI Nona Mathematics Club. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by the Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security and Peace, Jamaica's partner in advancing progress and building peace. Tune in on Tuesday, March 31 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Hey kids, are you ready to be a part of something super special? Introducing the Small People Elite Club, the coolest club for all our little listeners. Here's how it works. Every weekday at 4:30 p.m. when the show starts, you can send in your check-in voice notes and let us hear from you. And guess what? Every third Friday of the month, you will get the chance to speak live with me, Auntie Vashti, on the show. It's your chance to share your stories, ask questions, and be a part of the fun. You can message us at 876-424-3642 with your name and age to get added to our WhatsApp group. Our group will officially launch on April 6, 2026. So don't wait. Get your voice heard and join the Small People Elite Club today.
So sing with joy, let your spirit soar. Small people doing.
Mama work hard, for real.
She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the park, travel park, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Play the gospel music in the GT Sound presents The Experience Gratitude Edition, Saturday, April 4 at Manchester High School, featuring Prodigal Son, Ryan Mark, John Mark Wigan, Alicia Taylor, and more. Get your tickets now at sproopen.com/The Experience 26. Pre-sold $2,500, VIP $10,000, Student $500, at the gate $3,000. Gates open 5 p.m. showtime 7 p.m. Come with your best praise as GT Sound celebrates 40 years of You Don't Want to Miss It.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Jukal as he looks at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question: should schools ban bun eating contests due to safety concerns, or is this an overreaction? Jukal.
All right, Bianca Cook says it doesn't necessarily have to be banned, but there should be emergency measures put in place to help if something does go wrong. Living life with what ifs will get boring and draining, especially as a curious teen. All right. Alia Beckford says, I don't think being concerned about safety is an overreaction, but perhaps a complete ban would be. If there's proper supervision, trained first aid staff, restricting it to certain ages, that may be better. All things in life come with risks, but having the right precautionary measures in place will do a lot. Let's go to Edna. Edna has a voice note.
Good morning, watch. Good morning, love 101 listeners and staff. For me, if the school wants to ban the bun eating contents, it's up to them. But overall, I don't think it should be banned. It's a contest that be going on over the years, even before I was born. But I think I should put in better measure though. Have emergency people on spot and do it in a different way. Cut the bun in small sizes, you know, so that the contestants can eat it little by little. They have to be a winner. It doesn't matter who, but eat it little by little. Don't give them an older bun to eat. Put it in a little plate or something in small bite size. That's how I think it should go.
All right, thank you, Edna. And Cherry's saying the same thing. I don't think bun eating should be banned. Some enter just for the fun, some enter just to eat a bun, not caring to win. One just has to be careful when chewing and swallowing, not cut and swallow. Also, they need to have an emergency person or first aid help on board. So, yeah.
Okay. Look like she was hearing you earlier, Jokal. Some people enter just eat a bun.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, I want to thank the responders. Interesting responses there on that matter. As we segue into the second watch, a significant decision has been taken at the United Nations General Assembly, where the transatlantic African slave trade has been recognized as one of the gravest crimes against humanity. And the move has reignited discussions around historical justice, reparations, the lasting impact of slavery on societies like Jamaica. And for many, this recognition is an important step toward acknowledging the scale of suffering and injustice, while others are now asking what practical outcomes may follow. Well, join us to respond to these questions. We have online Bert Samuels, Vice Chair of the National Council for Reparations, and Stephen Golding, President of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Good morning to you both. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Bert. Morning, Reverend Toussaint.
Yes.
Morning to the listeners.
Great. Mr. Samuels with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Yeah.
Good to have you both. And let me just acknowledge that it's now 7:45 on Love 101 FM. Great to have you both, gentlemen. I begin with you, Stephen Golding, to put our discussion in context. In a nutshell, can you remind us of, what are the basic things in regards to the transatlantic African slave trade? What was it all about, in a nutshell?
Well, there was nothing basic about it,
Okay.
It was the most horrific. It was the most dastardly social experiment carried out, and as the resolution moved in the United Nations last Wednesday stated, it is the gravest crime ever carried out against humanity. So, we're talking about, in fact, this year, 2026, marks the 500th anniversary. This is 500 years since the first ship that trafficked in enslaved Africans left from the coast of West Africa and took enslaved Africans directly to the Americas. It was a port ship to Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
This is also 500 years since the first enslaved Africans were taken to the United States of America. Now, they often refer to 1619 as being the year of the arrival of enslaved Africans. But the fact is, about 100 enslaved Africans were taken there in 1526. But the reason they are removed from their narrative is because they slayed their slave masters, slayed the whole colony, and then moved into the interior of the country where they were absorbed by the First Nation tribes, right? People can check these facts. So again, the fact that the United States was one of 3 countries not willing to accept this resolution, and the fact that they are even trying to rewrite their own history, to not tell the story of the resistance, to not tell the story that Africans revolted against this crime from the very beginning, and it was a continuous resistance right up unto our liberation. I mean, it speaks volumes.
Yeah. Bert Samuels, based on what Stephen Golding just said, we're talking about the vote, the UN vote. What more can you tell us about that and your concerns in that regard?
Well, there are three sores that stands out after that. The 3 of them are the United States, Israel, and Argentina. I mean, to all the Argentina football fans in Jamaica, I'm asking you to boycott them and don't cheer for them. They encourage or Holocaust. And also Israel ought to know better. They have a holiday of 4 years of the Holocaust. We had 400 years, and they think that ranks more and worse than us. And also to the Christian community. My father was a pastor. I grew up in the church. I heard 400 years of the children of Israel in enslavement in Egypt. I heard those sermons over and over again. Not one sermon since I've been going to church has been dedicated to the gravest. Chattel slavery was joke to what the children of Israel, they didn't get any straw to put in their bricks, and that was a huge item. We were the church must take responsibility for the Eurocentric route it has taken when it talks about human suffering. To totally forget that when a pastor in Jamaica is preaching to his congregation, the great-great-great-grandparents of his congregation were enslaved, and that enslavement was 400 years. So when we talk about the gravest experience, I want the Christian church listening today to say that we must now talk about the 400 years that is a post-Bible experience that many pastors and theologians have sidelined and not deal with, and that's what I think we should talk about this morning.
Yes. The vote itself was about the recognition of the transatlantic African slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity. And you mentioned, both of you actually, in regards to the those who said no to the resolution. Were there abstentions? I believe there were, and were any significance there, Bert Samuels?
Yeah, there were many. The tally was 123 in support. And Steve, you know the figure for those who abstained, including the British who enslaved us, should be ashamed of themselves. You know,
52 countries abstained, including the primary perpetrators of the crime.
Yeah.
The European Union, the UK,
Ireland,
and Ireland. Surprisingly.
Yes, and they claim to suffer a lot on the under the British themselves. It's disgraceful. I think that when you talk about black people suffering, you see racism in its rawest form. People like Israel supporting the apartheid down in South Africa, and wearing two hats at one time, that the suffering hat, and yet ignoring even certain people within Israel. There's apartheid down in that side that they are still practicing. So the contradictions came out in a very glaring way when this resolution was passed. The contradictions are huge.
Were they?
Who was on our side,
Yeah. Were they required to give an explanation for their abstention?
Steve, just remind us after the vote what the British said, that they don't want us to be suffering.
Both the British and the US sought to give an explanation. The British said something about they don't believe you can compare one crime of humanity to another. They don't believe in creating a hierarchy of that. But of course, they've consistently resisted anything that may take us on the road to reparations, because they were exposed in 2015 when they just finished paying off the monies that were given as reparations to the slave, quote-unquote, slave masters, the traffickers. The ones guilty of the crime were paid on our emancipation, right? And that thoroughly embarrassed them in 2015. And now I think it debunks this argument about them saying that they should not be responsible for paying reparations for crimes that were committed in the past. And the other reason they give, and the United States doubled down on this, was that slavery was legal. And so therefore they committed no crime. And this is why the narrative of resistance is important. And the Reparations Council has been doing a lot of work in terms of getting people aware of that. There was even a presentation last year organized by Patrick Robinson, Judge Robinson, that showed that even in the 16th century, a case was taken before the Vatican questioning the legality of slavery, and that question was taken by an African. There is also the letter of the King of the Congo that was sent to the King of Portugal in the early 1500s, I believe around 1524 or so, which said that the Europeans coming into his country were violating the agreements of the slave trade, and they were no longer procuring slaves from the market where prisoners of wars and criminals were sold into slavery, because Africa did this, but that they were kidnapping innocent people, right? We have these things on record. So Europe's cat and mouse race and hiding behind these flimsy excuses because they believe that they have controlled the narrative and given us a false history for so many years is now being exposed by the reparationists who are doing the research and presenting their own European documents of history to them, showing that there was a challenge to the legality of slavery. So, this concept that laws made by some are greater than laws made by others is just an obfuscation of the matter and the promotion of white supremacy in the legal system.
An interesting point you're raising there, Stephen Golding. Bert Samuels, and I guess Stephen can come in as well. I hear the passion in both of you, but there may be those, even within the Caribbean, who are wondering, what's the big deal? how will this vote affect the price of petrol?
Yes. We hear that argument. Even during our enslavement, there's a section of the house niggers who felt that, listen, if slavery is abolished, I am not going to know where my food going come from. So there are some belly people who just looking at their belly and nothing else about what's around them. And so we are used to that narrative. It's indoctrination. That is why I tell you, the church doesn't even preach about the wrongs of slavery to its congregation who are
segments of the church, Bert Samuel. Some segments of the church. Some will do. All right.
Okay. I guess I haven't heard a single sermon, but maybe I need to go to the right church.
Yes.
Back to Stephen saying that slavery was legal. You know what it is? When you say it was legal, it means that you don't see Africans as humans. Because in England, when in Somerset case, which decided that slavery could not be tolerated on English soil, so what they're doing is one part of the empire, slavery is illegal, and another part of the empire, it is illegal. If you look at Thistlewood's diary down here in Jamaica, what he did to women and men, defecating in their mouth, stuff like that, order in that, they can tell us that if that was not a crime against humanity, it is because they don't see us as humans, why they can advance this slavery was not illegal then. Okay, apartheid was legal in South Africa at one time.
Yes.
Is it acceptable? No. So there's a standard that humanity must abide by, and they wish to push us under that rather than to say that we are humans. They did not. You remember, during slavery, the owner of a female slave could rape her, and that wasn't a crime. And you do the same thing in England, you would be possibly hanged at that time. So it is the contradictions within the legal system that they are trying to impose on us. And we reject that because we continue to be humans and will not accept that we are subhuman.
I throw the same question to you, Stephen Golden. What's the big deal?
Anybody in the Caribbean who is asking that question should be ashamed of themselves. And they need to become more aware. Marcus Garvey said we need to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Steve Biko said the greatest weapon used against the greatest weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the minds of the oppressed. Now, first of all, not knocking this because it should have happened a long time ago. I mean, we had made our own declaration of slavery being a crime against humanity, the Durban Declarations in South Africa in 2001. But the fact that it is an African country who has brought this resolution to the United Nations, I really feel it should have been done by CARICOM or one of the predominantly African countries in the diaspora a long time ago. For too long, we have inherited a colonial political system. We have inherited a colonial educational curriculum. And even in our mindsets, we have taken a colonial attitude of trying to sweep the horrors of slavery under the rug and not want to deal with it. Black people in the diaspora shouldn't be talking about slavery was a long time ago. Let's move on. Let's stop talking about it. That is the narrative of the slave master. The fact is that at emancipation and even moving into independence, the issue of reparation should have been addressed a long, long time ago, right? It causes many problems in our society, politically, economically, and otherwise. Wealth creation is the greatest challenge facing African descendants in the world today. Majority of the Caribbean countries, when you look at their economy, 85% of the wealth is controlled by the white nationals in the Caribbean, less than 15% of the population, right? So, you there?
Yes, man, listening to you.
So for black people to be questioning whether we are entitled to reparations, for black people even to be trying to throw cold water on this resolution, what they should be saying is, at last, it's finally happened, right? But that mindset is a reflection of the whitewashing of our mentality. The fact that we even continue to see ourselves as the descendants of slaves rather than the descendants of Africans who survived the greatest Holocaust, right? The greatest one, and who have managed to flourish even against all odds.
Got to
That
leave
is
it
the
there.
narrative.
Got to leave it there, gentlemen. Thank you so very much. We hear the passion, and we hope that in terms of reparations, we'll see more being done. Thanks for joining us. Have a safe, productive day.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us this morning as we looked on these very, very current and relevant topics. We're asking you to join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information on how to get copies of this program, call the production department at 876-968-9596-7. This, of course, has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Yashika Nevers, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning with Jokal Dyer.